Hello everyone, I'm Brett and welcome to a new episode of Friday on the Turntable. The best albums of 1990 going back 30 years. First, I'd like to mention that we just posted a feature a few days back on the Life on This Planet blog, for which I will have a link in the description. 11 contributors. We all did our top 10 favorite albums of 1990. We each wrote blurbs for everything. There's a 108 song playlist, so you can sample songs from all the releases. Sarah contributed, Saturday Night Music Club alumni James Todd, our friend Frank, who writes for postpunk.com. He's from the band The Harrow and also does the Systems of Romance blog. Our friend Keith, who writes for Pop Dose, and a lot of the usual suspects. So let's get started. 1990 for me, it was the year I started my final year of high school, senior year. Woo. Gas prices on average in the United States, $1.15 a gallon. Box office toppers were Ghost, Pretty Woman, and Home Alone. And who remembers when Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson to become the heavyweight champion of the world? We also sadly lost Stevie Ray Vaughan and Mother Love Bone's Andrew Wood. So let's get started. I'm gonna rank my top 10 favorite albums of 1990 in descending order. So we'll start with number 10. This is New Model Army's Impurity. This was their 5th album from Northern England, Bradford. Intense, melodic sincerity. My band Audra played with New Model Army 3 times. They were so incredible live and really nice people. My favorite tracks on this one are Vanity, Purity, and Bury the Hatchet. Bury the Hatchet is this like great kind of introspection at letting go of grudges. The quote, "Bury the hatchet with a smile and a curse. The world is big enough for both of us. I never did like you, probably never will, but I bet you can live with that fact pretty well." New Model Army, Impurity, 1990. Number 10. Number 9. This is like my brother's favorite album of all time, and that is Lou Reed and John Cale's Songs for Drella. You can see there in that reflection, you can see Andy Warhol. Drella was a nickname for Warhol, Dracula, Cinderella. And Songs for Drella brought Lou Reed and John Cale together the first time since the White Light, White Heat album from the Velvet Underground in 1968. And the Songs for Drella was written as a tribute after Andy Warhol's passing, kind of told his life story in song. And my absolute favorite track on this one, and just, I mean, an absolute favorite of all time, is Open House. The line, "There are no stars in the New York sky, they're all on the ground," and in the background, John Cale does this little harmony with Lou Reed's voice there, and it's seriously, it's goosebumps. Songs for Drella, Lou Reed, John Cale, that comes in at number 9. All right, so this one right here at number 8, I remember getting that box from Columbia House. You guys that grew up in my generation, you'll remember all the ads in Rolling Stone magazine and whatever for, you can get 12 cassettes for a penny. There was BMG and there was Columbia House. So I got this box. It came this little box with the cassettes in it. I think they'd give you like 7 or 9, and then when you bought one, then they'd send you the other free ones, or you know, the ones that added up to a penny. And this one came in the box along with my number 1 pick, and coincidentally both albums were produced by the same guy, and this is Social Distortion. This is their 3rd album, and it was the one that kind of catapulted them into a much more success than their first 2 albums. Produced by Dave Jordan, so he also did my number 1, which we'll get to. No spoiler alert here. But in the same year, he also did Alice in Chains' first album, Facelift. So he had a pretty incredible year. You know, this was my first exposure to Social Distortion. I'd come home from school, I'd turn on MTV, and the music video for Ball and Chain was always on, and I just fell in love with it. I still love this band. I've seen them live several times. I get I have all their albums. And favorite tracks in this one, of course, Ball and Chain, Sick Boys, Story of My Life, and then the cover of June Carter Cash's Ring of Fire is also on this one. Social Distortion, number 8. Taking it down to number 7, this is Cocteau Twins, Heaven or Las Vegas. If you look back on my channel, at least 5 years ago, I did a Friday on the Turntable feature specifically on this record. So if you want to hear more details on that one, be sure to check it out. So this was their 6th album in their catalog. 4AD, probably the most accessible record, I would say, at the time for the Cocteau Twins. When it came out, I wasn't really into it, and I wrote about this on my blog. I remember going to my friend Robert's house, and that was probably before this came out. And he had, I was going through his box of cassettes, and I was like, oh, what's this Cocteau Twins band? And it was Bluebell No, so that came out in '88. And I remember him playing me the song Suckling the Mender. I mean, you never forget a title like that. And playing it, and I just didn't get it. So it took me until when I found the CD EP for Love's Easy Tears, when I listened to that, and I finally got it, and then went back through the catalog, and this is just a layered, shimmering kind of masterpiece. So Cocteau Twins, Heaven or Las Vegas, number 7. Oh, my favorite song on this one is Frou Frou Foxes in Midsummer Fires, the final track on this one. Excellent. All right, number 6. So this one technically is a compilation, but for me, I've always kind of saw it as Morrissey's 2nd album. This is Bona Drag, and what it is, it collected singles and non-album singles and B-sides. Favorite tracks on this one are Interesting Drug, The Last of the Famous International Playboys, and We'll Never Marry. And, you know, like a lot of the British bands of that era in the 80s, you know, they were just masters of B-sides, and like We'll Never Marry is a B-side, and it's just incredible. And, you know, bands like Suede, The Smiths, U2, The Cure, Depeche Mode, all these bands just would put out, you know, they were so prolific, and they'd write all these songs, and instead of saving them for the next album, they'd put them on the B-side. So this is Morrissey, Bona Drag, and that's my number 6 favorite album of 1990. Next up, this is my generation's Velvet Underground and Nico. This is Mazzy Star, and this was their debut album, She Hangs Brightly. They were formed at when the band Opal, the demise of Opal. Opal featured David Roback from The Rain Parade and Kendra Smith, who was in Dream Syndicate. And they were on tour in Europe opening for the Jesus and Mary Chain, and Kendra Smith just decided to quit the band. So they brought in Hope Sandoval to be the singer. They changed their name to Mazzy Star and recorded She Hangs Brightly. Just beautiful. As I said, Velvet Underground and Nico, just that same kind of quality. Favorite tracks in this one is the Slap Happy cover. Well, the song is written by Slap Happy called Blue Flower. Holla, the opening track, Ghost Highway. Sadly, we lost David Roback and drummer Keith Mitchell over the last, couple of years. But yeah, Mazzy Star. If you don't know Mazzy Star, I'm sure you do. Check out She Hangs Brightly, their first album. That's my number 5. Number 4, this is another huge one for me. Walking home from school, turning on MTV, and the video for Joey would always be on. This is Concrete Blonde, Bloodletting. My first exposure to them, I mean, the tone of James Mankey's guitar playing on this is just so crystalline and just one of the greatest guitar tones. It's like Jimi Hendrix on Axis Bold as Love, Castles Made of Sand, or Little Wing. Just that shimmering guitar tone. Another band that we got to, we opened up for Jeanette Napolitano, the singer of Concrete Blonde, at a club here in the Phoenix area in 2006, and I remember seeing her watching from the back, and yeah, very cool. Concrete Blonde, Bloodletting. I mean, Caroline, Darkening of the Light, Lullaby, Tomorrow Wendy, Joey, Bloodletting, the Vampire Song. I mean, if you don't have this album, definitely get it. That's my number 4, Concrete Blonde, Bloodletting. And stick around, I'm gonna show some other records too. As you can see from behind me, I have a bunch of other stuff from 1990 that's on display that didn't make my list, but they're all worthy of representation. And I'm going to pull out some other things too at the end here to kind of discuss. Number 3, Sinead OConnor. I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got. This was her second album. And another MTV story, you know, that year, 1990, the music video for her cover of Prince's Nothing Compares to You was just played so much, and I related also with MC, not that I relate the song, but MC Hammer's You Can't Touch This, Vanilla Ice, Ice Ice Baby, and Nothing Compares to You were on constantly. And so that was my first exposure to Sinead OConnor. My favorite track to this day is the song Black Boys on Mopeds, which rings true 30 years in the future than it did when it was released. Other great tracks, Emperor's New Clothes, Last Day of Our Acquaintance, and of course the just heart-breaking cover of Nothing Compares to You. Sinead OConnor, number 3. Number 2, this is probably an obvious one that, you know, people that watch my channel would assume that this record is going to be on this list, and that is the 7th album from Depeche Mode. This is Violator. I reckon a lot of people, this would be their number 1 album of the year. This was massive back then. You know, MTV, Policy of Truth video, Enjoy the Silence, Personal Jesus. Between the album cover, the Anton Corbijn videos, and just the great songwriting, I mean, this is just pretty much perfect. Depeche Mode, Violator, number 2 record. All right, number 1, what do you think it is? Any ideas? All right, so not only is this my favorite album of 1990, but it's, I mean, I could probably say it's probably my favorite album of all time, and that's Jane's Addiction, Ritual, Della, Habitual. Depending on how you categorize the first album, I always see their XXX live album as their debut, Nothing Shocking as their second album, and Ritual, Della, Habitual as the third album. What's so fascinating about this record is that most of the songs were already written and played live even before their first album. So the one that immediately comes to mind is 3 Days, the 10 minutes and 46 second epic, probably my favorite song of all time. Like I was talking about in the beginning with Social Distortion with the cassettes, that was the cassette that was also in there, produced by Dave Jordan. My original cassette copy had the white censored cover with the First Amendment on it. And I would just sit on the floor in my bedroom with my white Fender bass, and I would figure out all of Eric Avery's bass lines obsessively. I mean, I lived and breathed this band and this album. What's also so incredible about this is it makes me think of David Bowie's Low album, because on Low, for those of you familiar with this 1977 record, the first side is more conventional songs, and then the second side is like the high art, and Ritual, Della, Habitual was like this, leading off with 3 Days, which is like a journey, and I wrote about this on the blog. It's like getting picked up in a car in Hollywood, driving through the desert, through the forest, through the mountains, over rivers, over bridges, and then you're dropped off in this like daze on some remote rocky beach. That's what 3 Days is like. And then it's followed up with another like epic track, Then She Did, of course, Classic Girl. I mean, not only is it an incredible second side of a record, but it's just an incredible sequencing of 4 songs, and it's just, this album is just a true masterpiece. So that's my number 1, Jane's Addiction, Ritual, Della, Habitual. Let's take a look at what's behind me here. You can see Pale Saints, Comforts of Madness, Pixies, Bossa Nova, The Church, Gold Afternoon Fix, Red Cross, Third Eye, Steve Vai, Passion and Warfare. That album artwork's so great. The band James, Gold Mother. What do we got behind me here? The Mission, Carved in Sand, and then also the accompanying Grains of Sand. Anything Box, Peace, Living in Oblivion. Gene Loves Jezebel, Kiss of Life, you can't see down there. Nick Cave, The Good Son. Let me just show some other ones that I pulled out on CD. And this album almost made my list because it was so huge back then, and I remember getting on cassette, and I still listen to it and still really like it, and that's Queensryche's Queensryche Empire. I mean, this album was massive back then. Megadeth, Rust in Peace. I mean, watching Headbangers Ball, like, what was it? Saturday night was Headbangers Ball on MTV at midnight, and then Sunday night was 120 minutes. So you had the heavy metal on Saturday night you'd stay up for, and then Sunday night was all the alternative music. And the videos for Hangar 18, Holy Wars, so good. Midnight Oil, Blue Sky Mining, excellent. Forgotten Years, great track. Happy Mondays, Pills, Thrills, and Bellyaches, Manchester. How about the legendary Pink Dots, the Crushed Velvet Apocalypse? Another good one. If you don't know the Pink Dots, I also did a Friday on the Turntable about them years ago. Slayer, Seasons in the Abyss. It just makes me think of that video where they're playing outside the pyramids. Great. How about the Twin Peaks soundtrack? Angela Badalamenti, 1990. Let's take a look. I got some other records here. All right, probably one that everyone's like, why haven't you showed the Sundays? There's the Sundays debut, Writing and Arithmetic from Reading, England. Great. That Here's Where the Story Ends is probably the song that most people know by them. Great. They put out 3 records, and the last one I think was in sometime in the mid-90s. Hey, you. Got an appearance from Star here, the cat. Hello. All right. How about Ride's debut, Nowhere, shoegazing band? Excellent. Dead Can Dance, Ion, 1990 also. Excellent. Okay, I'll go ahead and wrap it up with this one. The Law's debut album from 1990. So guys, let me know, what are your favorites from 1990? Leave some comments, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Good night. Goodbye.